We call to order the Village Board of Trustees for Belleville for January 21st at 6 p.m.
The one.
I'll give it, it'll be on there, so. Cool. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brenda Larson,
Is it?
Betsy Bainan,
Here.
Michael Kraut,
Here.
Asmar,
Here.
Ward,
Present.
Ziegler,
Here.
and Service.
Here.
Have quorum.
What was the meeting posted?
Meeting was posted as required by law.
Cool. Next is public participation. Public participation allows citizens to be heard on any agenda and non-agenda item. The public may also comment during the public participation section of each item. The village board shall make no decisions or consideration or action of citizen comments for items not on the agenda, except to refer the matter to the village administrator for administrative consideration, or schedule the matter for a board consideration at a later date. And as usual, if you have, please state your name and give you about 3 minutes. So anybody have public comments? Connie?
On here first, it was brought to me that there is no handicap bathroom in the park. You didn't put it back. They put in a regular one.
You can't service any pet bathrooms in the winter time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comments?
Actually, I'm not sure where to bring this up or how to learn about it. French Piggly Wiggly is not going to be continuing their lease. I don't know if that is something, how we go about courting other businesses to come as a grocery store, so we don't lose them.
Years.
Yeah, I heard that.
So this time they didn't renew their lease at all. It is closing down, which with
It is closing down.
They already stopped liquor sales or like purchasing, and they're slowly getting rid of buying stuff.
Did you hear that from them?
It was on the thread, and then I had to pick up a couple things anyways. Yep, that's what the lady had said. She originally said, no, she didn't know, but then as we got talking, she kept letting loose a little bit more info. I guess that the building was just bought and the rents are skyrocketing. Sounds like we're losing Subway. The insurance lady is gonna start working out of her house. The Mrs. Jody Darrow. Don't know about any of the other people. I don't know if Big Cats will be able to manage, and stay afloat, I hope. But those are just some.
I was at the grocery store for the weekend and I
That's all that I was gonna say was that I read that Facebook thread too.
asked the right people, but he said no. And we have seen this hidden yes in there also.
I saw a lot of empty shelves this weekend.
And a lot of hard. I was hoping that they would be able to sustain, be on top of things and. Yeah, I've gotten some pretty disgusting things from there, so I just don't know that very often other than the last meeting.
That's,
If you believe the other rumors, there is already somebody that might be interested in a grocery store, but I don't know if you can believe those or not, so.
Exactly. Just take everything with a grain of salt, if it's true or not, we'll find out. When it actually happens.
that's a private sale thing, so
I didn't know the building had been sold, the Jim Wilson sold the property. That's the only thing that's been brought to us formally. I'll reach out to Tanya and see if that's what what their timeline is, but. Yeah, and then I'll see if Jim Wilson can get the name of who bought it from him, but
that's what we could access on access paying.
maybe if they've updated it.
It would just be the owner of the building. It wouldn't be anything.
So I want to get the contact information. I can try to have Jim just give me the contact information. But I do know, based on my conversations with them last summer, that they had been struggling. Since they got here, sure, finances were not up there, even though we're growing and we're gonna double in size in the next 2 years. They just, I think went over there. So we'll make it financial work.
You'd be having a hard time finding help too.
And it was expensive, I think.
Any other public comments at all? Not. On the consent agenda, all items on the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member requests it, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and consider the first item after the approval of the consent agenda. This is the village board meeting minutes from January 6th and a special event application for Jazz in the Park on May 25th.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Second it. Okay, motion by Tony, seconded by Deb. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Passes. Next, village president report. I don't have anything. Staff reports.
Yeah, so. Green. We were given access to our new website. So it is not fully how I want it to be content wise, but I now have ownership of it, which means I can start editing things and taking things down, reorganizing how I want it to reorganize and all that kind of stuff. This is what the new home screen will look like. The calendar here, when you just scroll just down, will be by the week. And if you want to see the full calendar, you can click on that. As we start putting news and announcements up there, this page will get busy with pictures and all that kind of stuff. One thing that'll be different is you click on agendas and minutes. It'll come up with this, and then you have to search for what committee you want to go to. So any village board meetings from January 6th all the way to the past. I think they did the last 5 years. And then all upcoming meetings will be here to the left. Obviously, right now, it's just the village board meeting because that's all they put in, but they will put in what Mary has put on the new calendar. So all that will get updated as this goes live. I think it's probably not going to go live for a month. I want to really update every page just to make sure everything is organized and how I want it. Before we put it out, like there's some stuff that aren't even links yet. So yeah, no, I think it's gonna look a lot better and make things a lot easier for residents to find. So I'm excited for that. The other comment is on Friday, I got an email that UW Extension had approved our project for the trail in bridge on the west side. As you remember, the board approved having UW Plateau Engineering seniors design the new trail and the bridge. And they're like, oh, next Thursday is going to be our kickoff meeting. And I'm like, cool. I didn't know we got approved.
Wow.
Great. So next Thursday, I'll be going to UW Plateau meet with students and get that project kicked off. They will do it for free, but there was an ask for donations. So we can look at that once the project's out. So I'm excited. They will design the bridge. Again, you don't have to put the bridge in. We put it in the TID projects if we wanted to, but even if they design and we don't do it for 10 years, then the design's there and we're ready to go when it's ready. So I think it's worthwhile, just the whole project and figure out what we want to do. That's all I have.
Tax payments still accepted here through the 31st. Otherwise, after that, go to the county, and auditors will be in person here next Monday.
I have all the election information up to date in the memo and on the website. If you're curious, I will point out, not the next board meeting, but the board meeting after that, the Monday, February 17th will be at the library because we will be having a primary election here on the 18th. None of you are on that primary. It's solely for state superintendent department, and it's whatever. one race, one state race that needs a primary, and that's the only thing on the February election, but it's there. So
When are absentee votes and stuff going out?
So absentees for February will go out by the 28th of January. And in-person absentee will begin the 4th through the 14th of February. Then and for the April, absentees go out like 3 weeks ahead of time. So I think it's that first week of March. I don't remember specifically. And then the 2 weeks before the election, so the last 2 weeks of March will be our in-person absentee.
I have nothing.
So next, Gabe, Village of Belleville annual report.
Yeah, so this is, I'll just share my screen again. So this is the first time we've actually done an annual report. The PD under Bill had done it before, but it was just a few weeks. And I think the library has done it, but they have to do it for the South Central Libraries, some of their obligations. We had not done one full one. So just to kind of show residents, one of the feedback that I got in the last year's kind of the confidence survey that we put out last February was more communication. We know you guys do stuff, but what do you actually do? And so as trustees, as residents, it's a good reason, just good thing to see what actually happened in 2024. So first page is just my introductory letter. We were headed from the strategic plan. Last year, you thought you guys were busy. You did 144 agenda items last year, individual agenda items. Mayor and the clerk's office did 144 dog licenses. We did 35 operator licenses, and there was 26 special event applications.
So chicken licenses.
And they were both renewals. We've done one.
For the police department, traffic citations, 553 traffic citations, parking violations was 321. Reports completed were 613 and calls for service were 6,300. So I was meeting with the police chief of Fitchburg on Friday, just catching up and chewing the breeze a little bit. And our traffic incidents of 553 for 1 year was there in November last year. So I thought that was really funny. They were 558 in so I felt like I needed to share that with you.
That's great.
I contacted Belleville Fire and EMS to get some information. There were 445 calls for service, 22 reserve ambulance calls, and 0 missed calls from EMS. And then here are the fire calls by dispatch code. I do not have it separated by what was Belleville, what wasn't, because that's not, they had the data, but this was just what they did over last year. Public Works gets heat at times, some deserves, but not deserved. And I had Jim pull some data for me. We did a lot, and it's kind of, a lot of it just goes unnoticed. You don't really think of the lift station cleanings or how many miles of sewers we cleaned out or how many sample tests we did. We did 156 sample tests last year. But Public Works stayed busy. For Parks and Recreation, there was 8 music in the parks, 10 new trees planted. There was 20 farmers market vendors, which, as you remember, last year the village took over the farmers market and housed it. We really don't do much with it. The Arts and Culture Committee reviews it, but it's Tierney pretty much manages it without much involvement at all. So go Tierney. 40 neighborhood park shelter applications, and 350 times the baseball fields were rented last year. So it's a lot. Andrea gave me some really good library updates. They had 35,000 visitors last year. They have 24,000 physical items to check out. Even more, 169,000 electronic items can be checked out. They had 7,000 in-person event participants. 148 people signed up for Wi-Fi, and they had 55 outer library loans placed. Senior Center, they did 2,800 meals last year. They had 47 event attendees. They did 196 medical rides. So they'll take people to medical appointments and things like that. And they had 500 hours of casework with Belleville residents. And then one thing that we don't talk enough about, but the food pantry is a village department. And it's housed under me, but it's run by solely volunteers who do a fantastic job. Lori and Karen do a fantastic job with that. There was 850 volunteer hours to run that. $27,000 were donated to the food pantry last year. Pretty much 20,000 pounds of food was donated, and they helped 2,700 individuals last year. So throughout all of our departments, we did a pretty dang good job. So I'm very pleased with how much actually was done last year, even though we talked about things having maybe changed in the parks or streets weren't plowed fast enough or something like that. Just know that staff was very busy last year. So shout out to them. And in that vein, Big Radio outside of Monroe has reached out to do a news meeting with me to talk about the annual report and talk about all the cool things that are happening. So I had that call on Thursday. So hopefully we can get some good press from this article and all the new growth that's happening. And keep up the good work. You don't have any action on it. It's not something you need to approve or disapprove. It's just more information. And if residents ask what happened last year, this is your official document. Show them this, talk about this, pull it out. Yeah. Any questions on it?
I have a couple grammatical errors in here that probably.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
It should be corrected before it gets officially published. I'll let you.
Just, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Let me know.
It's actually, would this be something that would be on our new website?
It absolutely will be. It will be once Gary sends me any grammar errors. So, but yes, it will be. And once I change those two, I'll make a social media post about it just to tell residents to see what's up.
How many people don't know what's going on and they say something's going, but yet come to these meetings and you realize, I can't believe how much you guys deal with every day. How many projects and all that. It's not, somehow you keep it together and it's fun. Thank you.
I'd be curious to see statistics on how many times the document's viewed on the website when it's there.
Our new website can tell us. But this one won't. New one will.
Well, the new one with the same idea, since we have to search it, this one, it downloads to my phone and then I open it. Will it still be a download or can you just open it?
It depends on how you probably set it up. Some will go straight and some may open a new page.
Okay.
I would assume will be PDF, so you can download them as well, I'm sure, even if they are visible.
I think that's how you have to do it for ADA.
I think so. Any other questions or comments? Okay, next is old business, discuss and consider next steps regarding the Stevie Fisher Trust.
So as you guys remember from your last meeting, you wanted to have this conversation. What kind of projects do you want to do and what kind of projects do you want to see? The homework was, once you guys have decided kind of what projects, you don't have to, like, if you guys say we're putting a beach in, doesn't mean you're absolutely putting the beach in, but these are the projects that we're going to submit to the trustee to say, hey, these are the projects we would like to do. Do you have any issues with it? Doesn't mean we're doing it, just these are the projects that we're considering. They will say, yep, or beach, not feeling it. And then that'll come back to you guys with a check or no. And so I would start talking kind of like lead the conversation.
I'd like to see something for boats. And a beach.
I feel like water quality
should be the number one focus just because of this. So
That's kind of, yeah, that was kind of my thought.
as well. Should go to the DNR if that's where the first step is to have the water quality checked.
Yeah, I think there's, well, it depends on, and I don't know that we're proposing solutions necessarily tonight as much as just coming up with, I don't say project ideas, but just what are potential things that we'd like to use the money for? And then I think the next wave is then to prioritize those things and say, yeah, again, I think I'm trying to open up the can of worms, but the big thing with this is we've got a set amount of money, right? Do we want to blow it all into a bunch of projects? Or do you want to use it as a fund that we can draw from on an annual basis? Lead off the interest as best we can, and if we've got extra, whatever, but to that vein, this is, it's a lot of money, but it's not that much money from that standpoint that when we start doing things like beach installations or boat piers, that sort of thing, we're likely tapping into principal. We're not, especially if we're doing water quality on top of that. We might be lucky and say water quality is once every 3 years, and for those other 2 years, we can draw off the interest, which is, I think, rough estimate is 60 to 80,000 if we're conservative. Hopefully interest rates stay at the level, a reasonable level. But even with that, the more we take into principal, it's going to go away over time, right? So, and that's not, I've got my own opinions. That's not to influence anybody necessarily. It's just to say, hey, we've got to be conscious of that, because if we start saying, oh, we want to put in a beach and we want to do these different big projects that might cost a few $100,000, very quickly, we're not going to have the nest egg that we once started with.
So when my grandparents passed away, we set up a pretty much a similar trust for 4-H students for college scholarships. And the 4-H group is allowed to spend all the interest that was gained that year. They don't need to ask us. They don't need to tell us how many people went to it. They can just, that money's theirs. If they want to go into principal, they have to get our family's permission to be able to do that. You guys can set that up in this report that says every year for projects, the interest should be used. And then you can set up, it has to be 3/4 majority vote for the report. So you guys have a ton of flexibility. So you can set up spending limits. We can only spend 20% each year, or we want to spend all in 5 years. Like, this is the time to make those decisions. And then from this meeting, I'll pretty much design a report for you guys to approve to be able to send to them. So right now it's just generating thoughts, ideas, pretty much the limit's yours and what you want to do.
I would say invasive species would be another thing.
Yep, that was.
I'll just throw this out, it would eat up the money, but do we look at dredging parts of it, of the lake again,
Sure, yeah.
that might help with the water quality,
Right.
all that kind of stuff, so.
What's the interest that you get a year?
60 to 80,000.
60, 80,000. Doesn't go very far, does it?
That's a
Well, it also depends on how much we spend, right? So if we, and because this is and it's not to say that we shouldn't spend. I'm just like, I approach it conservatively, saying, hey, it'd be nice to always have this money there to be able to keep the lake upkeep, right? If we're going, again, I go back to the trust document, to the theme of, hey, we want to make sure that we can try to keep this lake clean and maintained. And if we keep the funds with the intent of meeting that baseline requirement, I don't know. But let's say we partner with Upper Sugar River Watershed, or we partner with other organizations, the DNR, et cetera, and maybe we can put $30,000 towards that every year. Well, that doesn't mean that we can necessarily put in a pier on year one, but maybe after 3 years, we've saved up enough that we're not tapping into that original principle, that we now have $30,000 or $90,000 to basically spend on a big project every once in a while without tapping into the original principle. But again, That's,
And if you do a big project like a beach, you're probably, that beach is gonna cost whatever, but then the board smartly should put money aside to maintain the beach. It would be dumb to build a beach and then just say, oh, money's gone.
correct.
Right.
So that also needs to be put into how much you're gonna invest into that fund.
So this is from, not even 3 years ago, 2 years ago. So 2.5 years ago is when we got.
Speak up.
Sorry, 2.5 years ago roughly is when we got the trust. It was $1.2 million. And right now we're sitting on about 1.7. So that's $500,000 in 2.5 years.
Right.
Just from compounding interest.
Right.
I mean, we haven't been any exotic investments at all. It's all been treasury bonds and money market and whatever. I mean, it's been the most bland investing. And we've still netted over 500 grand.
Right.
So we can do a lot with a little if we just manage it correctly.
And it's not to say that we won't make more than 60 or 80, but it would be, I don't think it would be appropriate for us to say, well, we're gonna get $100,000 a year, right? Because then we budget for 100,000, we only get 60. Now we either have to come up with 40 out of our general fund, or we're taking money out of equipment that can earn interest in the future.
It's maybe akin to dredging, and maybe dredging was the wrong word, but I was thinking more like weed removal and tree removal, you know, cleaning up the channels and that kind of stuff. So
I think all that stuff should be done too, before we even think of doing the beach.
Agree, Deb.
You want fish restocking.
Well, that's
Yeah.
kind of the other thing about carp mitigation, I would think, is probably.
mitigation and maybe some restocking or, you know, fish.
So we shouldn't worry about that till the water is
The water quality, yeah.
up to water.
It's creating a hole that's
I'm
here.
just coming up with ideas because like that wouldn't be top of the list. I think water quality and figuring out.
This exercise to me is putting that list together to send to the lawyers to get, to know what they're going to allow. And then we can decide off of that what we want to do specifically, and not have to go back and ask again, ever.
Yeah.
Because they want to get the trust closed and get the last disbursement out.
You still owe about $40,000 from them. And so once they've given that signature and you guys say, these are the projects we're gonna consider, they're done. So there's egress, and they don't need you guys to spend the money right away. They just want to know that you have.
Well, just what the ideas are, the concept, and make sure that we've got some structure to what the plan is. Are there what other things like swimming, fishing?
So I'm fully on board with, we got to improve the water quality first. So all of that,
Sure.
obviously in my head comes first. And these are the things where I'd be interested to know what they have to say, you know, playing off of the beach. Well, the beach is water quality and kind of recreation.
Sure.
I would like to know if a fish ladder or boat bypass of the dam would be something that would be approved. I would go to the DNR first for grant money and things for that, but I'd like to know if this could be used for that. And then at the same time, you know, if we're gonna have a beach, can we put some funds towards, you know, a bathhouse or something for people to change at?
I think the bathhouse would be difficult from.
Probably, but
these
I'm
funds,
just,
but yeah.
this is a list.
Yeah,
I'm totally expecting there's gonna be a no next to it.
sure.
We can ask.
Or something.
And at the same time,
We can say is,
Yeah, no, I'm following, yeah.
and at the same time, at the beach can there be recreation equipment for the enjoyment of the water more? You know, whether that's, you know, a slide or, you know, the floaty inflatables out there.
When I was a kid, there was a diving board.
Right.
We got out every year, so.
Yeah,
There used to be.
yeah, I could see some type of like platform.
You know, underwater quality, you know, any improvements to, the aeration system, that stuff.
That's, yeah.
You know, and that has to be housed in a building, so, you know. Is that same building, you know, got a bathhouse in it?
there any design work that would be required for aeration or things like that? I would assume that would be
There you go.
stuff like that.
Like dredging,
And
just the cost of dredging, but then the cost of hauling it.
Yeah.
All of that, like if for the beach, the engineers are
I guess-
designing it, that's gonna
Right.
cost money.
Yeah, specify engineering
Your areas
costs.
are Too small for down here.
the one that's in there, I think is, but that's what we're saying is like, if we were to upgrade that, we would probably need some design or some engineers to basically come in. And if, again, we're pie in the sky here, because it's like, I've got 11 things written down so far, and we're probably in the 10s and 11s when we start talking about some of that stuff, but I'm just trying to think of like,
Yeah.
I mean, this time of year, like perfect world, right? Like maybe not perfect world, but I'm not an ice skater, but let's say if we had somebody design it, would it make sense to them, for them to design the aeration so that it would work on a certain part of the lake, and maybe you could allow for ice skating on another part of the lake that wouldn't be impacted by that, right? That you could cordon off, or you could have it sort of designated that way.
Did you see the new one they're doing? I think it's an ice skating rink behind Ace. No, it's up farther.
It's already up there.
In Verona. Did you see the
They're already
design?
using it.
Have you seen the design of that? That is nice. Because they've got
There's apartments on.
yeah, they've got an ice skating rink and it's got lights hanging out
Okay.
there, and
I think there's a
it's pretty darn nice.
Sure. Which, way cool, but I'm just saying, relative to the lake, I'm just saying if we were wanting to skate on the lake, which
Right.
we can't really do right now because the water is aerated and the ice isn't that thick, and not promoting that. And maybe that's not a solution. Maybe it's not.
Get rid of these.
Along with, a boat launch, I guess I'd like to see it, include in there, I don't know if they're considered different, kayak
Kayak launches, additional kayak.
I know we have
launches.
one already, but
The Parks Committee is gonna be talking about that.
my pie in the sky vision would,
One's in the river
want 3 of them.
and none in the lake. I said one's in the river and none in the lake.
So
What else would you like to see done with? Use for. So a big fountain.
well, like water quality and try to get to a point where we can have game fish in it.
How about the river?
Well, that's more, I'm thinking that's the weed control.
Yeah, no, there's weed mitigation on both, but,
Yeah.
but even with that is, yeah, but even with that, I mean, it's,
With the
Whatever
river,
the pollution.
we involve firm maintenance.
And then there is the river from one end of the village to the other. You don't have to think just
right.
downtown.
Sure.
You could put, like, if we're designing the trail, like you could put a river overlook down on the west end of the village too.
Right.
If we're gonna put a trail that goes down to the lake.
Sure.
You don't have to just think right here. You
Right.
can't think both ends.
So what about, establishing a park area or something similar, upward downriver where the new development will go in. The other side of Remy Road.
Yeah, I don't know that we can do much with the park, but we certainly could do like clean up the water area there.
I don't know what we do in there, but, that's an area that's,
Sure,
we're gonna have something, I'm sure.
right.
We had bought land at one point for a walking path around the entire lake. Is that something you want us to look at? Like I said, you could do the lookout over on the west side of town. You could put something on water quality, maybe right where the treatment plant empties out.
Taught me again, we're doing pie in the sky here with endless funds, but the land that we were talking about that we acquired, like either putting some type of lookout or overlook or even art installations or something like that on the lake right there.
Then you could put benches down there, a little walking path, for a fishing thing.
I'm gonna lake walk path, that it could include a boardwalk,
Yeah.
There'd be nice.
because for that piece of land we bought,
Right,
if you would probably have a boardwalk
right.
along the bridge area. But if we did a trail around
Right.
the circling.
Did you have a question or comment?
When you made a comment about the Rainy Road area, I thought that was already going to be.
Actually, can you speak up?
Oh, the Rainy Road location that he mentioned, I thought some of that was already going to be a park, but I don't know how big or how often.
Yeah, I think the understanding is that everything south of the river will basically be parkland. But I think it's more to say where the river goes through there, do we need to do any cleanup relative to the river itself, right? To remove stumps or trees or make it usable, right? For people that would utilize that park. So it's not just
Been a long time since I've jumped off a phase bridge. I don't know how to do that anymore. So, I mean, you know,
It varies. I got a picture of Betty diving in there.
You could extend the river walk all the way to.
yeah, potentially.
We do almost like store line.
That wouldn't be that hard to do, actually.
So, I mean, that's connectivity and
Sure.
keeping people together.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
I really like the idea of the boardwalk along the river, along the highway, because you can't stop there and, you know, observe anything. So a boardwalk station deck or something would be kind of nice if you could get back there a little further. So.
So back to the lake and the river, is there anything else that we're not thinking of as it relates to like fishing piers? I think would be, you know,
Yeah.
a pier into the river,
Upgrade the boat launch.
upgrade the boat launch, certainly to have like a pier, or again, part of that might be even addressed by what we're talking about, Connie.
That reminds me,
It's part of it, but yeah,
fishing pier.
it's part of the
I
discussion.
think it's probably important to add to the list, ongoing maintenance of
Whatever we put.
those items.
Right,
I mean, make sure it's in there in
Yeah.
a separate line. I'm not gonna assume, along with the engineering costs to design it in the first place, if we're gonna do something.
Yeah.
We need to think about bathrooms at the entrance part up in the front.
if we might, from a park
Mhm.
standpoint, I'm not sure that we can, I mean, I think we can do beaches. I think as we start getting away from the lake and the river itself, I think we start getting into, again, we can ask the question, I'm not opposed to that, but I think our energy's better spent in saying like what things are like for people to enjoy the water, for people to utilize the water, for people to utilize the lake, whether it's swimming, fishing, paddle sports, kayaking, boating on the river,
Hiking.
I'm sorry,
Hiking.
hiking, yeah, potentially. Yeah,
Something that's kind of interesting that brought up, I forget who mentioned it, but grant funding. And what we talked about for the past, all that stuff, there is a boatload of grant funding out there, whether or not we get awarded or how much we get awarded, whatever, but there's a boatload of grant funding opportunities. And so, I mean, it might even be a scenario where we have a matching 50-50 grant or even a full grant that pays for the actual install of whatever we're doing. And we just end up having to pay the soft costs and continuing maintenance for it. And
Right.
that's totally doable.
Would we have to put that as a separate line item?
I think we have,
Matching?
I'll have a section in the report that has funding and we'll say we will be approaching all types of grants possible alongside Fisher Trust funds to ensure adequate financial strategy.
I mean, it's just like TID 3, like we're gonna pay for the parkland. I'm still gonna apply for both the county grants to see if we can get reimbursed. And that way we can just pay back that debt service right away.
I mean, my one of my fears relative to this is that if we don't track the assets carefully, we'll do a grant application and we'll have say a $400,000 project for something, right? And we take 200,000 out of the bequeathment funds, but then we don't replace them. And that takes it from 1.6 down to 1.4. A few years later, we do it again. And all of a sudden, you've got $800,000 instead of 1.6 million. And you're wondering, why don't we have the $60,000 that we always had to do water quality training? That's not to say that we're gonna go down that path, but I think to me, there needs to be a mechanism, whether it's where the bereavement funds sit, but the ability to refund it if we need to. If we're doing a large projects that we might not have funds for, that we have the ability to set aside those funds and replenish that amount so that it is kind of always there. Again, that's just, I'm not trying to go up on a soapbox about it. I just like, I'd hate to have, there's a great opportunity to have funds that are there in perpetuity with an amount like this, that I think we'd be doing the village disservice if we blew it on 3 big projects or 5 big projects.
One thing that will help, I guess, is we do have a lake and river restoration fund as a special revenue fund. So any monies that go in and out of this account is tracked separately. So we will get annual updates because none of this will go into the general fund. All of it is its own special. So that will help.
And we can put more money into that, right? That doesn't,
Whenever you want.
it doesn't have to be this. That's, I guess.
Right now, it's solely funded by.
Correct, right.
There's gonna be some sort of policy or policies that come out of this when
Right.
it's done.
Well, that's kind of, yeah, exactly. That's kind of where I'm
This
kind of,
and then arguing and everything is wasted. We start back from scratch again.
Could we request a fountain for aeration?
See,
I had just general aeration
Right.
upgrades.
I guess that would be us, for us to decide, I'm sure.
Trucking some alligators and building one eye.
You've named a lot.
bird watching stuff. I'm not a bird watcher, but I'm assuming that's one of the things from a hiking standpoint. Certainly have wetlands over there. Bird watching, like bird identifying resources, maybe signage, stuff like that, that would be helpful for people to figure out what they're seeing.
Animal nesting
Yeah.
locations, boxes.
Along with the bird watching could be, like, different species of plant, you know,
Yeah.
identify all that stuff, all
Maybe say,
identification traits.
maybe say wildlife
Yes.
identification resources. or-
Kind of like Gallagher Trail was when it first started.
Yep.
It's kind of gone.
The big thing now is like nature scapes. Nature, wildflowers, trees,
Sure.
native plants,
Right.
things like that.
Anything on the islands? I know online postings for beaver trapping, I'm sure is a big thing right now, but.
We're just getting to set.
Is there anything-
She wanted to mention something before.
Sorry.
For Mary's mental health, let's move on.
A beaver
It
pond.
has been,
Directed at Mary.
no, but it has been the theme of 2025, surprisingly.
Special revenue beaver.
But
that is
not just for beavers, but just for any other wildlife that, like, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe it shouldn't have gone there, but.
You could put a trail in there.
That's an item for another day. Beavers.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff you could do.
And small shelter with a picnic table along there.
Yeah.
If you ever go on the maps, the DCI maps for Dane County or ArcGIS or anything, you'll see that the plats for those islands are much smaller than the islands have been
Sure.
themselves.
Right,
And that's because of the water levels.
right.
So if the water levels do rise again, those will mostly be underwater again.
Right.
So we don't want to, I think, put too much money or, whatever, too much expense on those. We could definitely, I think having the fire department do burns on there would be great. To clear stuff out, I think that'd be great. Maybe put some like barely paths.
Rudimentary, like, yeah,
Yeah.
game trails, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Bat houses, bird houses, whatever. I think that's great, but I wouldn't build any structures or try
Right.
to do anything there.
I can go through the list and let me know if there's anything you want me to remove from it.
Yeah.
The only thing I was questioning was boats.
Well, I meant a boat ramp.
Like upgrading, I think there was comments before we were talking last time we met that like having like a pier right.
Yeah, dock.
Because there is a boat ramp that's on the river that I
Right.
do know the kayak launch is there, which will hopefully move that a
But you
little
should
bit
have a-
next year, so it's not right in that area. Or maybe not, Jim.
Some big rapids. Right next to that.
Oh, are there?
So one of the things there would be to improve it, widen that out.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I think that ramp itself is literally intended to be a boat ramp for people to back trailers and boats into. They obviously can't do
Somebody
that.
put their, can't do it now.
And Jim brought up, I mean, erosion, shore erosion
Oh,
would
yeah.
probably be an item to put on. I mean, you've got riprap around none of that park, but, maybe it need to be replaced or whatever, so.
So I have boats, beach, water quality, invasive species, redredging the lake, trees, stump removal, park mitigation, restocking fish periodically. A fish ladder to bypass the dam, put money potentially to a bathhouse for if we move to a beach. Aeration system upgrades, making sure we put engineering costs and just general O&M costs. Lake walk, boardwalk, fishing pier, upgrade the launches that we already have, bird watching, bird identification, plant wildlife signage identifications, native scapes, all that kind of stuff. Educational tools, anything?
Yeah, the erosion, the shoreline erosion.
That's a lot.
Had your water quality down, should be up on top, right?
Well, that's just. We'll look.
It's not priority.
And I would hope that if we do dredge the lake, that we would be smart enough this time to use that dredgings and put it right in the community park to build it up. So you wouldn't
what we did
have
last
standing water. Well, not as much as they should have, but yeah. I continue.
It's an
to do
island,
that.
so you're always gonna have a water problem there, so.
Yeah, you won't if you get enough building up, but whatever.
So Connie, plug your ears.
Oh, God.
Your ears, not your forehead.
Set me off.
Not intentionally, Connie. I'm throwing it out there, just
Okay,
it
I'm already waiting for a comment. Go ahead.
never happened. Dam removal. Be on there.
That'll never happen.
Tons of great money.
Did you say, Jeff?
Tons of grant money for that.
Dam removal.
I think I looked it up once.
Dam removal.
$7.5 million, 2.5 million from
Well,
DNR for it. They hate dams.
Blowing it out.
Yeah, great. Give me my husband. He's not as pleasant.
Not advocating for it, Connie. Just mentioning it as
There's a project
He's
that
adding a piece of spaghetti to what we're gonna throw at the wall.
we didn't comment on it and didn't say it, we wouldn't be able to use the funds for it if we ever needed to. So,
anything else? If not, I will, do you want me to do a list and send it back to you, or just take this list to them and see what?
Just take it to them.
They just take it to them.
All right.
Don't prioritize it later.
They're allowed to say no. I won't get upset.
So I will just clarify, this is not prioritized, this is just, is there anything on this list that you don't think is qualified?
and the way I would frame it up is to say, these are in the realm of these are in the realm of ideas that we would consider. Again, most of these are probably higher on the list and more likely like water quality and invasive species, and like you could probably prioritize it based on just like in relation to that stuff, but I would frame it up that way. But there might be things that are project adjacent to these topics that we're not thinking of, but I would assume that they would still be within the realm of, and I would frame that up in the question or presentation to them, just in case. And Connie, did you have a comment?
No. I'm, just leave it for now.
We want to add, and I know it's all kind of part of the trail system, but we had talked at one time about when we put the new footbridge in, we had talked about putting one like at Village Drive and Harrison Street there across, but it was, so again, right where the Handy Park is there, where that fishing pier is.
Go to, put a walking,
Yeah,
and
we,
get into community
yeah,
park.
to get into community park that way. So,
Oh,
because,
Yeah.
It's,
if you, I mean, if we put a trail all the way from the west side,
Yeah.
you
sure,
know, that would save them 6 blocks they'd have to, or 5
Yeah, yeah,
blocks they'd have to
yeah.
walk or to get over,
Yeah.
or somewhere on
Sure,
that side
yeah,
of town.
yeah.
So
yeah, no, that makes sense, just,
it's a big span, so it's expensive, so we only went with.
Yeah.
if you want me to put like a little overwalk or thing that's on the west side, like that connect to a potential trail.
Yes.
I think so. Put it in there. We don't have to.
Doesn't mean it's kidding. I'm good.
yeah. Like a river crossing or
Something.
river crossings, because it could be multiples, that would be there. Again, I don't, some of these things are decades away. That's not,
And that's what this plan
the
will tell
intent
us.
here isn't to, I mean, like, I'm trying to look into the future. I don't know what it looks like, right? But that's like if, like, well, but kind of think of it this way and specifically related to that. Let's say, let's knock on wood, this doesn't happen. Let's say we have another record flood, right? And it washes out half of the dam. You know, it would be helpful. We might be in a situation as a village that it might be helpful to be able to use some of these funds for whatever reason to not repair the dam or to fix it in a different way that.
The general fund doesn't go negative $300,000.
Correct, for 5 years. Again, I'm not advocating for that, but I don't know what the future is gonna hold, so it's 13 or 14 on the short list that I have, but I'm just throwing it out there because it's connected to the river and the water and the lake, and
We don't have to argue tonight.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't thinking about stuff like that, so.
I'll be ready for you.
Okay.
He is ready for it.
It's okay. So
So do we need to take any action on that other than providing you guidance that we just did?
Guidance has been provided.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, we're gonna move on to discuss and consider a partnership with Upper Sugar River Watershed Association.
In the same vein, we had talked to the Upper Sugar River watershed, the parks, Ian and I had chatted with them. And then the Parks Committee kind of got ideas from them. Just kind of thoughts on upgrades to the Sugar River, carb mitigation, all of the things that we just talked about, water quality. And then the president of the Upper Sugar Watershed last week reached out and asked if we wanted to renew our partnership with them. The reason why I'm coming back to you guys is that partnership was ended in 2021. Not sure why, not sure if it was turnover and we just it just got left by the wayside, but we had funded it up to that. $1,500 annual contribution. And I told them I would come back to you guys.
So in reversing back to the last agenda item, would we potentially want to include membership or partnership with local environmental groups to be part of the bequeathment, possibly?
Yeah.
Um,
They do.
well, if we decided to do it, but it's, yes.
Get it, but what did we get out of it? I don't like pay to play.
So a lot of things.
I
I know
know.
they do a ton of educational
A
stuff.
ton of it. Secured funding from DNR for coordinated invasive species prevention and control in southwestern Wisconsin. They monitor streams and maintain boot watch stations at Access Point.
Which we have one of up by the Eagle Route Pass. There's a big washing station there. Little scrubbers on the thing right at the bottom of the signs. Just need to get out more.
You and the dogs must go, huh?
I'm sorry.
You and the dogs must go.
No, haven't been up there in ages, in a while.
Funny.
But no, there's little,
They got backpacks, it's.
right?
just do
Jim,
it.
am I right? There's little Bruce conversations like, right, but they do backpacks and educational stuff. I know that.
They do a lot of classes. They do continuing work on community science programs that monitor water quality and dragonfly populations, including in Lake Bellevue and the Sugar River. Coalitions for classes, stuff like that.
Well, they brought in students from Milwaukee earlier this year to do much stuff in the lake, so.
And I I hate to agree with Ian, but kidding. I think that's something we should add to the list, but, and I was at that meeting, I think, when they came down and talked at Parks Committee. My only concern with that group is sometimes I think they tend to flounder a little bit, or, they,
They've got a new leadership.
yeah, so, I mean, I don't have a problem probably taking, funds out of the bequeathment for something like that, but kind of like what Ian said, are we getting what we pay for, or, that I just don't want to be a $1,500 donation or contribution and we get nothing out of it. So I think it's been a good group in the past, and hopefully gets back to that point with the new leadership, and because they could be an asset to us with the river. So,
Well, we could do it this year and
yeah,
see how it goes.
yeah.
Was there a reason why we ended?
I don't guess turnover and all that.
That's what I'm gonna get.
It had to be turnover because I don't remember
I
it.
think it being brought back.
And that's kind of my take with that organization, is that they end up having different leaders that have different expertises in different areas, right? So you might have somebody that's good with insects and stuff like that, and then others are good with plants, and
Sure.
others are good with like water quality and that sort of thing, and they have different initiatives that they focus on, depending on what it is. But I think solidifying I think there's two different conversations happening. One is, do we want to be part of the organization and help support them? And I'm in favor of that. I think, again, in line with what everybody else is describing, that it's like, hey, it needs to make sense to do that. But I think there's also a more in-depth conversation with that organization, which is, hey, if we can really partner and be part of all the stuff that we're trying to do with the lake and the river, like what would that look like? And it probably is going to be not a pay-to-play situation, but probably some type of funding that would be aligned with that. But again, I mean, again, if we're talking perfect world, I'd love to see us combine efforts with the school, the library, and do a bunch of educational stuff that's like all about helping everybody understand how to be good stewards of the environment and navigating that.
The other cities, city of Madison, city of Verona, Dane County, Madison Metropolitan Sewer District, Mount Flora, towns of Montrose, Springsdale, W. Says no to Belleville,
Eagle Airs?
and Wisconsin Denominator.
When they came.
I wonder where the Upper Sugar River watershed, like where like upper and lower start. I don't know where the line is geographically for that.
Isn't it at Mount Vernon?
I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah, so New Glarus might be lower than
Yeah. Well, I think-
possibly.
Yeah, and I think they did do part of their trout stream
Okay.
in Primrose there, but they really have worked farther north,
Yeah.
Mount Horeb and
Sure.
Mount Vernon in that area.
That's right, Gary.
Well, because I thought, I was wondering, trying to remember that presentation when they came, but, working with the university system, period, but, because they've got or water quality or biological, stuff that, I thought they had mentioned some of that too. So, I mean, if they've got the contacts for those kind of things, that would be great, that we can utilize some other, again, if those kind of similar to what we're doing with Platteville, if Platteville or Madison or whoever has got something similar that deals with water quality and lakes and streams and everything, that would be great. If they would be able to help us get those kind of things.
So, the Upper Sugar River watershed, with a drainage area of approximately 170 square miles and 115 stream miles, is located in Dane County, Wisconsin. So I don't think they go as far south. But they do talk about, we're hands-on project group and disseminate information about watershed issues through our connections in local schools and numerous community partners. More specific information about Upper Sugar can be found in our bylaws.
It seems like Lower Sugar River is, all of their partners tend to be Green County.
Tend to be what?
Green County,
Yeah.
New Glarus is not a part of either.
I thought it's ready to hear something about Lafayette.
So this is interesting. In their bylaws, the membership is any person who lives, works, or recreates in the watershed may become a voting member upon payment of dues. 1 year membership categories are as follows, and under municipality, it has to be determined by formula.
Interesting.
There we go, a formula, just like EMS.
I'd be curious to hear what the flaw.
Formula is
Except
that.
we're probably the small fish in the big pond in this formula. If not, it says Verona.
Probably has some representation for what our formula is. I'm back and go. All right.
Man,
$1,500 is what I think their formula was.
well,
That's what they've asked for.
look, I'd like to see how they math that.
Time now.
It's some of that crazy Monticello math, I think. Funny.
But they put on programs, so where are they doing the programs?
Seem to have it in, area.
Well, then you
That's what I
got
thought.
Stewart Lake.
Yeah.
Well, they came in and they said, I mean, again,
They do stuff here.
it's how they form partnerships, right? So if they had a good relationship with the school, they would do a lot more in the school. And if they're, like at the library, I'm sure that they would do that. But like, it requires effort, not effort on our part specifically, but an effort on forming that partnership to say, hey, we'd really like to be doing this. And again, I think there's two different conversations. One is sort of the membership, which I would like to hear. Like, yes, I understand the calculation that was quoted as 1,500, but I'd like to know like, how much is Verona paying, for example? Are they paying like
Yeah.
6,000 because they're 4 times the size of us? Or are they paying 1,500 too and we just get the short end of this? How much is Montrose paying versus like
Right.
that sort of thing would be helpful. Not that they're going to disclose that, but that's one conversation. The other conversation is like, how can we literally partner with them and get involved, not just as a member, but as a municipality to promote efforts that they can support or we can support or promote or assist with. I think part of that involves the school. I think part of that involves the libraries to say how we want to do this. Does that help? No, Gabe just wants to know whether we want to join the member.
Pretty much. Do you want them to come back? There isn't a time, like, there's no rush.
You're a guy that he can tell.
Yeah.
That'd be a good idea.
And we'll come down and talk to us.
Well, I'd like to, and I think the big thing, yeah, they'd be happy to come down and talk, but I think it's also like, I'd like to know what the calculation
Yeah.
is to their membership. Or what's literally in their bylaws, it's on their website, says that it's determined by the formula, so
What's that formula?
share the secret sauce.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, they do 7-acre dairy for lunch.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. 12.
Yeah. June.
So anything more in
Can I
the
have them come back at the next board meeting? I'll reach back out and say, could you come back? If any questions are, how did you derive at that number? Based on our past though, 2021, we paid 1,400. 2020, we paid 3,500. 20 paid 35.
Wow.
So 1,500 is a bargain.
It is.
Yeah,
a
maybe they
bargain.
reorganized
So I
their.
might have should have said that
I don't
before.
think- Yeah, I don't think we question that, Jeff.
No, I think you still question it. But I
Yeah,
think-
I do, I think.
But I think, well, again, I think there's two conversations. One is membership and one is if we're talking about a bigger initiative as it relates to the lake and river cleanup
Mhm.
stuff, which I think they're one of the go-to organizations. I think the DNR is in there as well. Obviously, I think even some of the university extensions are probably in that conversation as well. But how do we navigate that to make it? Yeah. Does it make sense?
Right.
And is there a donation or a cost for doing some of those things?
I will tell them you're quite interested in just a couple of questions that we want to have discussed prior.
Well, we didn't specifically, we haven't specifically budgeted for this. And I think we've got enough room in our budget to basically navigate it, but part of that is, to help us navigate that for this year, but also like in the future, it'd be helpful for us to know, like, what is that fee gonna look like in the future? So that help with that one, Gabe?
It does.
Anything else on the partnership with Upper Sugar River Watershed? So next, reports from boards, commissions, committees. Thing from the library board, Deb,
Nope.
planning commission. What do we?
Needed the sound variance for most.
Yeah, so I think there was, the big thing was just that, for, is it gonna be the hop house or is it?
Hop garden.
Hop garden. That's going in with the garage. Obviously, they're doing an outdoor entertainment area, and we were having a lot of conversations about, because it's a permanent structure, it's different than doing a special event. That they wanted a use variance for the property to be able to facilitate that. So we had lengthy conversations about potential sounds impact, like is, do we need to make any adjustments relative to that? Like, obviously, there's gonna be alcohol consumed, so we've got to be careful about what that's contained in, and there's some lighting and some other things that it sounds like most everybody that's right adjacent to the property is in favor of everything and they're not really bothered by it, but we also had a number of other residents and businesses from this area that came down to voice some concerns relative to, times of day that they might have music going, that sort of thing. So we were trying to put together timelines based on when they might have entertainment. Again, their entertainment generally isn't gonna be loud concert stuff. It's more like
Acoustic stuff.
easy listening type of stuff. Yeah, generally.
And I did get an email from Tim who submitted it, if the board would even consider going a little bit higher, like 5 decibels,
Yeah,
which is what other neighborhood communities have. So.
yeah. But our current ordinances are at 75. So that we couldn't go to 85 to allow for them. We'd have to change our overall ordinances for the whole village, which again, I don't remember what was 75. It was like a lawnmower or something.
Lawnmower, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not exorbitant, but there's part of me that's like, if we edit it, we're almost drawing more attention to it. Then just let it be. And like, I don't know that we get a lot of those complaints necessarily, but that's probably more of the least question, I think, but.
So they're requesting 85 today. I'm just gonna, we would go up to that, which is a food blender.
Yeah.
So.
Jeez,
Yeah. And again, most of their stuff is gonna be contained, like this time of year, they're likely gonna be playing music inside, so it's not gonna come out like crazy anyway. In the summertime, it's gonna be in a stage, and I think that's, if this, is the stage in the far back of there, or is it in the front facing back?
This side, so
It's facing to the east.
On the west side,
on the west side,
East, yeah,
east,
okay.
so it's really not.
in the back.
Generally, but we do it, but that, I think that was some of the people that attended, so we do have residents that do live on the second story downtown, right? So you do have people that like, I think live.
Sure,
Like,
sure.
of like Judy's office and some of those places where they're impacted a little bit more than I am, because I'm not anywhere near that.
the same vein, you guys got my email about 9 River Street with zoning in downtown. Ian and I made a ruling that 9 River Street, which is the house that's in between the old garage and that storage shed on River Street, that was no longer fit a residential use, mainly because it hadn't been used for a year for residential property. And as a downtown, and if we're running businesses downtown, that needs to be a commercial business or at least a mixed use resident and business, which they're fighting and want it to be residential. So I'm gonna work with Rick to see what that looks like, but it's probably the zoning board of appeals, right? Or planning
Waiting for
commission.
Rick
Yeah,
to-
trying to, probably guidance, but if they don't like that board's decision, whoever it is, they'll probably be coming to you at some point, so. Giving you a heads
I
up,
think probably just go to court after that.
and then it would go to court if they don't like your decision.
It's not occupied. It's still for sale.
For
So
sale.
this thing is, so it was legal non-conforming or legal non-conforming use, the using it as a residence was.
Sure.
Because back when the last iteration of the zoning code was changed, this whole area became downtown business district, general business zoning. So as long as it was in continuous use for that time, it could be grandfathered in.
Right.
Well,
There's now been a year gap, basically.
yeah, from April of 23, it was sold to these people who purchased it. They pulled permits for a new roof and windows, neither one of which signify they're it's going to be used, continued used as residential. And it's still unoccupied, or at the time that they requested unoccupied, and it had been unoccupied since April 23, and this was
Gotcha.
October 24. So, yeah.
Have they done the work that they requested?
I believe
I
so.
think so.
They're trying to, so they bought it to flip it and they're trying to sell it. But because of
Yeah.
they're selling it as a residential, but they're in the business district,
Correct.
they can't really,
There's no yard, and they also, there's a lot in back.
Yeah,
which
that's not
used to
theirs.
house
Yeah, but that's
a garage.
right.
They're trying to sell that lot.
Separate. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's no yard. Never. They're asking way too much.
Well, but
That was,
yeah, so
And what helps and doesn't help is when they originally bought it, there was a letter from East stating it was legal non-conforming, as in you could use it as a residential property
that's how.
at that time because it was.
Correct, yeah, I understand.
It is now passed. And so they want just to remain that way, so we'll figure out what process it's taking. Figure it out.
Anything from the police committee, Tony?
Yep, so Thursday, we've got the second round interview for police chiefs. We have two candidates. We have Chris and then we have Doug. Our two candidates. That starts at 6, Gabe.
The meeting great states.
So meet and greet. We started the conversation of a school resource officer. We're putting that on hold temporarily until after April.
And with the senior center,
They have the money now and they're gonna start redoing their kitchen. And they have their card party coming up, I think it's the 27th of this month. $10 gets you in and gets you small lunch to boot.
and when is that?
27th, I believe, of January,
27th January.
and I'm wrong. I'll have to look it up again. I meant to do that before I came and I didn't.
CDA,
The Vibrant Spaces Grant is continuing. Reading on that, we started the process again of, working on new welcome signs for the village, along with, trying to keep those in the branding. So we're gonna send out, for proposal again to.
I had reached out to Vital Signs as the community
Yeah.
suggested, so they're gonna come back with 3 designs. Go from there.
What committee is this that's working on this?
CDA.
Oh, good.
And possible budget items and things that will come eventually. I'd like to add something though to our prior topic of the bequeathment funds list. I just did a quick search out on the DNR's website. There are grants for nearly everything on that list. And many of them are matching grants of between 25 and 50%. One, a rural trails grant application is of particular interest because it just, by precursory looking at it, it possibly could pay a large portion of the bridge across. It's between 500,000 and $1 million, and it talks about steel and other things that you can purchase cheap. So, I guess specifying that you can use the money to match DNR grants for projects that are on this list, I think is important to list in that.
in that instance, we've already got TID money to do it anyway, so. Not having it anyway, but
Well, just
for other
across the
bridges,
board, I
yeah,
mean, there's,
right.
and a lot of them have, made deadlines or additional deadlines until the money's gone. So I don't know if we have anyone that would love to try and write grants.
That was my question. Who is responsible for it?
Or like,
Nobody?
who doesn't?
You write grants?
But when, if you guys hire this guy, I'll have more time to do it for him. So.
All three of you.
No pressure there. No pressure there.
What I really meant to do, you're gonna be right.
ChatGPT doesn't really good.
Oh, you did not just go there in the middle of a meeting.
Lauren, that's how she got her new library, was ChatGPT library grant, 100%. Just paying.
When the,
Okay, let's move on to communications and miscellaneous business, unless you had more on top of that. Yeah.
you're fine.
News and, any news and announcements? Anybody? Upcoming community events? Luncheon at the senior center.
Park crawl this weekend.
Oh, the bar cry, yeah, there's music, yeah, a bunch of
Yeah.
bands playing this
Yeah.
weekend. Weather needs to get warmer for me to think about getting outside. Yeah, it's going crazy. 20 degrees. Want at least borderline freezing without a wind chill.
That might be Saturday.
Well, it might be. And that would cause me to go out. I might be okay with that.
And again, Jeff,
Buffalo now.
Thursday, public meet and greet for the.
Yeah, Thursday public meet and greet for police chiefs. Candidates. Future agenda items.
The Weekman coming back up, probably the depot will be coming back up here soon. And then the Upper Sugar River Water Show will be back. And then March 3rd, the school district superintendent wants to come and talk to you guys about their upcoming referendum. They're going to all municipalities, all clubs, just sharing information. So then we're one stop on his tour.
You know how much yet they're planning to ask for?
It's like 6 million. isn't it?
It's all, the referendum question has been written.
Is that what you're gonna say? All the money.
Yeah, it's been written and I feel like maybe I got it in an email from the school though.
An annual request? or
It's
is it-
like a 3-year,
3 million over, like every year, like 3 million-ish.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Next 3 years, and that's just operating.
They need to learn how to balance a budget. I'm sorry. That's terrible.
That doubles what they currently.
Yeah, I'm fully.
That'll be a fun conversation.
Yeah.
I will be sick. I'm just kidding.
Are they asking for reoccurring again?
no,
No,
this
but
is
the
the,
recurring is still on. This is just on top.
the referendum question is a 3-year non-recurring referendum to exceed the revenue limit by 2,850,000 per year.
For the
For
first.
the,
For
for
next
the,
3 years.
Years more.
yeah, it's like for the next 2 school years and then the third school year is 3.1 million for the 27-28 school year. For ongoing operational and maintenance expenses, including for educational programming, salaries, benefits, and safety and security.
And just so you know, this is phase 1. Phase 2 will be if this passes.
It's terrible. I figured that's how much.
Doubles their levy.
We're gonna double the population, isn't it?
Like the referendum would double their levy.
But the-
The only levy rep.
Population, it's not gonna happen in 3 years.
No, no.
And
Um,
they should have that money to come
Yeah,
in.
I
Not
wasn't trying to load that whole thing up, but,
Okay.
You want to owl that?
background. Yes, do they have additional data beyond the data that I've seen before to
I think
support?
there's a web, the link that I sent you guys, or the email that I forwarded you, I think there's a link in there for their website with information.
Is it different than?
There,
the-
I literally just read from that website, that's the link, and I would tell you what, there's not much information.
Well, I'm just like, I've seen data that they were projecting from working with the university about.
I've
students
given
in
them our
class.
population estimates based on what I'm thinking, but that's,
Yeah, I'm just,
I'd say.
they didn't have support for it before because the data didn't reflect what they were hoping.
I don't know what data they're using. But
There's the referendum back.
the referendum website, I think is, all the information from that should be there. If not, then I would talk. Yeah, I would question him.
Which I'm fine doing. I was just curious if there's something else.
Did you say March 3rd that will happen?
Yeah. Are you gonna be sick too?
That's only.
Maybe.
I'm talking.
No, neither one of you are.
No.
Any other future agenda items that anybody wants to throw out there? If not, we'll read off the closed.
No, before you go into closed
Go
session,
for it.
you don't have to go into closed session for the Baker's Woods. Rick and I just put it on that in case you wanted to. But this, for the development agreements, you don't have, if you want to meet in closed session, to discuss it, we're more than welcome to. Put everything in there. That's why I attached it to the agenda, because none of it's private. This is boilerplate language from Rick. This doesn't mean that you absolutely, we've agreed to what their layouts are and anything like that. It is just stating that this is a project that you're willing to go with. It's necessary, but we are dedicated and a partner to make this development.
I don't think there's anything in there that's relevant for closed session.
I don't think so either, but in case you wanted it, I put the language in there.
I do have some issues, or not issues, but again, some things that I wanted to bring up about it that might need to be changed, but
Yeah, it's now's the time.
Before, so does anybody have any objection to not to doing this in open session?
No.
If not, then let's move it to now. We'll do it now.
Yeah.
So,
so
okay, go ahead, Gary.
on page 6, I don't know, does anybody have a paper copy over there or? Yeah, so page 6, item B, under Article 2, we have 1.5% interest that we're gonna charge. On the next page, under item C, for bills outstanding for more than 30 days, it's 1%. Why are we charging two different interest rates?
I don't know, but I like 1.5 between the two of them.
Yeah, I think they should both be the same, because otherwise you guys are gonna have to calculate what the.
Yeah, it's probably a typo. 1.5 is what we charge for everything else.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought, so, and then some really picky things here, but like on the top of page 8, item B, it talks about council members, or we don't have a council, and then it says board members, so wherever council's in there, we should take council out and put board members.
Oh, where was this? Oh, top of page 8.
B,
Yes.
E, on page 8. Let's see if there's anything else here. This was another,
You said something on E? Oh, council members, I see.
yeah, this was another fun document to read here, but, I think those are the main things that I found, so.
So the tree, go ahead.
Sorry, on the top of page 3, we talk about Public Works Director, and then someplace else we talk about, that's on the top of page 3, and then on page 4 in F and G, we talk about Director of Public Works. So again, I think just be consistent with what we're calling the position. You know, that's really picky, I know, but, and are we gonna change that to what the new title is, so,
No, just because in statute, you have,
okay.
he is statutorily going to be public works.
So let's either be consistent with Public Works Director or Director of Public Works then.
So you're only appointing an assistant, but you're gonna have to come back and appoint.
That's all I had.
So street trees, we're charging them $250. Is that enough to?
We thought so, because what Cody said last time, we thought 200 tree per tree was a fair amount.
250.
Yeah. 250. And they're not gonna install the trees, they're
Yeah,
gonna,
they're just paying us the
and
money.
we will handle it just like we're gonna do on the west side with the
Right.
RFP and all that.
Right.
That's on us.
That's for each lot.
Pretty much.
No, it's 350.
It's 350.
BMO tree planting is 350.
Yeah, it's 250 in
It's
this,
250.
250 in this agreement.
350 in the adopted fee schedule.
It's up to you guys. Do you want to do 250 or 350?
350. Adopted.
I can change this.
They can,
This doesn't have much that.
I suppose.
So it's up to you guys. Do you want to keep it or do you want to put it 350?
Well, we put it at 350 for a reason, I suspect.
Yes. Yeah, I believe that's what they independently said that it would cost.
I would say we'd want to go with 350.
Yeah.
I know they're not gonna like that, but I don't really care. I care, but I don't.
I mean, that was originally adopted back in
I
July.
don't care as much as money as other things. I don't care. It's lower on the list of care.
He's actually already been paying that for the new permits.
250
350 for the permits he's.
for the permits, the other ones, yeah, so it's not new.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've unless there's some special reason we're giving them $100 discount for this agreement. I'd say 350. I don't, does anybody,
No, I agree. It should be
I just-
350.
we've had living in the neighborhood without trees, I know that's a hot button issue.
You can see trees from your neighborhood.
Yeah, they're all dying.
They just aren't in the neighborhood.
It's one that
Yeah, tree envy. Thanks, Ian.
That's
That's what I like to hear.
didn't say
You
it.
can look at everybody else that has trees. Just don't get any yourself.
trees for you.
Anything else? I think if those are your changes, you can approve them as amended. And then I will send it to Rick for final approval, and after they agree to it, then Jeff, whenever he just comes in, I'll have him sign it.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agreement to undertake development for the improvements of Baker Wood Phase 3 with the revisions.
Second.
So the motion by Gary, seconded by Shelley. Any further discussion? Okay, so motion to approve the agreement with the amendments suggested. Motion by Gary, seconded by Shelley. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That carries 7-0.
And so, we're currently working on the Badger Trail development, which is the 250 homes in Greentown, which is the annexation agreement and development agreement, which will have about 5 phases to it. That, what you just approved is pretty much gonna be copy and paste with those changes onto that. So we'll get that hopefully in a couple weeks, which will pretty much match what you just approved.
So anything else we need to do on that one?
Nope.
Okay, then. So do we need to go, are we just going into closed session? We're going in for two things. Do we need to do them separately or can I do them together? Okay, so Village of Belleville Village Board will enter into a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85 subsection 1 subsection C for the purposes of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. The village board may reconvene into open session and take action on the subject matter discussion in closed session, and this is related to discuss and consider appointing an assistant village administrator. And we were also going into closed session. The Village of Belleville Village Board may enter into a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute subsection 19.85 subsection 1 subsection E for the purposes of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, investing in public funds, or conducting other specified business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The village board may reconvene into open session and take action on the subject matter discussed in closed session. And this is related to establishing a negotiation position regarding the Belleville Fire and EMS contract. Do I have?
I so.
Motion to enter into the closed session.
We'll go in here, so you don't have to go outside.
Okay.
And then,
So. I started that one, so I'm gonna give it to her.
so in here, we'll go in
Okay.
there.
You guys are gonna go in there.
Tony,
I didn't hear a word that just
holding
said.
you to that, but I'm assuming if you're willing to make the motion, you're okay with it.
Sorry, Jeff, can you repeat?
So Maxine and Tony, Maxine made,
Maxine made the motion
correct.
Yeah.
They
Okay,
both
thank
made
you.
the motion, but Maxine.
and so Tony seconded. Okay,
Correct.
thank you. Okay, I will call the roll.
Go for it.
Trustee Bainan,
Yes.
trustee Eichelkraut,
Yes.
trustee Kazmar,
Yes.
trustee Ward,
Yes.
Ziegler,
Yes.
Service.
Yep.
President Larson.
Yes,
We are in closed session.
7:30 PM.
Instead of all of us moving, why don't we just have Drew go to the back room and then we can all stay here?
Maybe. Idea. Right? That's what I was thinking.
Of course, that's student.
This guy.
She almost had a bad word.
I would never, I'm a upstanding citizen.
Okay,
See ya, yes.
so we are open session at 9:05 PM.
Gosh.
I think we are
Okay, so the motion on,
motion on the,
I'll make a motion that we approve approve the letter or offer of employment to Andrew Evelyn for the Assistant Village Administrator slash whatever,
Director of Operational.
Director of Operational Services.
so motion by Gary, I'm gonna give that to Tony, seconded by Tony. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Sure you want the job now?
Yeah, this is. That carries, welcome and welcome.
So just get your NSA guys and make them know some of this stuff.
Okay, so motion from Tony,
Do we have to vote on? Oh, okay. Second.
seconded by Shelley to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned at